Hello, welcome to the AFC Newsday podcast. My name's Dan, his name's Matt, and we are your home of Arsenal content over the summer and into the football season. It's our new podcast, our new, brand, if you like. And Matt, do you want to introduce yourself to the listeners, the watchers? How are you doing? You okay?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. Really excited to get this podcast started. Great to do it with you as well, and yeah, very much looking forward to it. And a lot of great stuff about Arsenal at the minute, so very nice time to start it.
Anyway, let's just talk. I wanted to start talking about Declan Rice, the man that's on every football fan's lips at the moment. It's someone that, it's a hugely anticipated transfer. And if it goes through, which hopefully it will be a record fee for a British player. And Declan Rice, mate, it's a huge deal for Arsenal. The player, I think, fits perfectly into Arteta's, team and squad, doesn't he, straight away?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the way Arsenal are at the minute isn't really a position-based thing where it's like he's not going to be the lone six, for example, just on his own. There's going to be so many players around him. The system's so compact, and I think that's huge for joining a new club as well. But I mean, Declan Rice speaks for himself, really. Just his all-round game is just superb, but his defensive awareness, his ability, his understanding of the game is just absolutely second to none. I mean, I'm just going to end up waffling into different parts of Declan Rice's game because that's a classic way to start. But one thing which really stands out for me about him is his ball carrying abilities. Of
Yeah.
course, everyone knows his defensive game is superb. Intercepting, tackling, understanding of the game is just brilliant. Obviously, also a great guy off it, which is fantastic for a club like Arsenal. But his ball carrying is so pivotal for games where Arsenal potentially don't have so much of the ball or they're struggling really to gain ground on their oppositions. And those type of players are almost invaluable and so hard to get in this type of market. And in games like the likes of City, having a player who can carry you up the field so much is just absolutely essential. And I feel like that's a part of Arsenal midfield wise, which we have lacked. I'm not sure if you agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Where do you see his? I mean, for sure, yeah, 100%. I agree with you. But where do you see his best position? Because for people tuning in that might not know much about Declan Rice, where do you think is he an eight? Is he a six? What's your view on where his best position will be and where he'll fit into Arsenal's side next season?
It's a good question because I think, of course, with Xhaka leaving, everyone thought, all right, well, Rice is going to be the one. You know, particularly how the deals have coincided that Xhaka's sale can only be concluded once Declan Rice comes in, essentially. But
Mm.
we've signed Kai Havertz, and that's completely official now. And the understanding is from various sources is that he will be the eight, which adds an interesting dimension to your question of will he be the six or the eight. Originally, I was quite happy for him to come as the eight, particularly what I said about his ball carrying abilities, his all round game, as I said, is just super. But very much seems like he'll be coming as the six, which I'm not opposed to either because he's a complete engine. He's superb defensively, as we've mentioned a few times. He's so young as well, and playing under this, well,
Mate,
under
he's 20
Arteta,
24 years old, isn't he?
for a player like that, captain material, 24 years of age, as you say,
Mm.
is just, you can't argue with it, really.
I like Erdegaard as captain, but I think Declan Rice is more on the pitch like a proper leader. You know what I mean? Like he was West Ham's captain, and you think that Odegaard, yeah, like off the pitch is well, what did Darren Ramsdale call him? Parched, didn't he? I think Declan Rice is much more of a leader on the pitch rather than Odegaard seems a bit more. Arsenal kind of had that since Xhaka got stripped of the captaincy. You had Aubameyang, a bit of a not really known for being a leader, but you know
Yeah,
led in his actions on the pitch, and then you've got Erdegaard as well, who's one of those players that leads with how he performs. But Declan Rice seems a much more natural fit for a captain for Arsenal, doesn't he?
absolutely. I think just, of course, having another English player as well goes well
Mm.
with Arsenal and the club
Actually,
name.
make us want to watch England because I remember there was a generation where like there was ages wasn't there when like no Arsenal players played for England, and I think there was one time when Ainsley Maitland-Niles was the only England Arsenal representative in the England squad,
Unbelievable.
and he just never played, and I was just like, oh, but
It's just
yeah, no, like
with
go on.
that, yeah, and with on the point of English players at Arsenal, now you've got Saka, complete starter. You've got Ben White, who's right up there. Of course, England have crazy talent, so it is what it is.
Mm.
Ramsdale's right up there. Once again, Pickford's not put a foot wrong for England, so once again, it is what it is. But you'd expect his time will come, and then Ben White, I feel like it's a very similar situation. So I think that's a really important core. And on the topic of Declan Rice, I don't want to, be boring going into the logistics side of things, but what have you made of the whole negotiations around the transfer? Of course, it's been very draining for a fan, but do you think West Ham have done much wrong, or Arsenal have done much wrong with particularly how people were, jumping the gun with just pay the money, and now
Mate,
it's oh we've overpaid. This what do you think?
mate, it's been long, hasn't it? It's been long. Well, I mean, as of today, I will use one of my 600 tweets or whatever Elon gifts you these days, to read what the latest is, and it's from the Guardian saying that Arsenal are expected to pay a guaranteed fee of the guaranteed part of the £105 million deal in 3 installments over 2 years. So it sounds like West Ham have kind of had their way as far as that's concerned. Talks with West Ham over add-ons being sorted. Transfer should go through soon. So it's all looking up. It's good news, and it's been quite long. I expected Man City's interest to have more of an effect on Arsenal. I expected it, to be a bit more dramatic, if you like. I guess maybe I'm just a pessimist, but I just thought that it wasn't going to be plain sailing to get Declan Rice. I mean, I know he was a talk at the end of the season, everyone saying, "Oh, Declan Rice, he's going to go to Arsenal." Like, yeah, definitely. And I was thinking, hold on a second, Manchester City, Manchester United, Chelsea. I was thinking there was going to be more teams in for him, but it's been it's been a frustrating saga. But there again, these deals
How it is.
are. Say again.
It's just how it is, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I
it
think
just is how it is. You can't control it. And as a fan, I mean, you've been melting down at the slightest bit of news that has come on the timeline, Matt. And
I don't think that's fair. I actually don't think that's fair.
oh,
With the Demartio stuff the other day, I
Edu
was
out, Cronky out,
very
Arteta out. Get them all out now. Declan Rice has failed.
mate. We've overpaid. Get him
That's
gone.
getting clipped, isn't it?
I've
Oh, good.
always I've always maintained the standards that the standards. Okay, you said no jokes. All right, cancel. We've we've always maintained from the beginning that the reason we're negotiating how we're negotiating is because it's not as simple as lay your cards on the table
No.
and you succeed. It's as simple as, let's say Arsenal bid 100 million, second bid even, it's now 110 million or
Yeah.
115 million or 120 million. Sullivan, particularly with how we're seeing now with the payment structure and how it is prolonging even more than many expected when it seemed like it was coming towards a complete close, which it is. I couldn't be more chilled about it. Like there's nothing really to add on it at the minute, other than just basic updates, which it just seems a matter of time, really, not one to really stress over or complain about. But I've always maintained that we can't go crazy for him instantly because you go crazy and the goalpost shifts.
Mm.
And Sullivan's very smart. He's milking us to as much as he can with structure, with add-ons, with fee, with everything. He knows exactly what he's doing. Very old school negotiator. He's making sure this sale for West Ham, obviously it's a one-off, isn't like it acts almost as if a few huge transfers for them because it's being milked in the way it is. I mean, 100 million over 2 years is bonkers, like bonkers. But the way Arsenal are run now, just the way Arsenal are run really is the bottom line of it, which allows them to make these kind of deals. Which I think it just goes to show, really. Those previous years, you're like, pay the money, pay the money, pay the money, and here are the consequences. I've ended up rambling as usual, aside from the point of meltdown, because I don't think that's too fair. To be fair, I don't think
Nah,
you've
mate. All right, all right.
ever
Call me
meltdown
out.
with it,
Call me out if you want to call
but
me out. All good.
I
It's a
don't.
safe place, mate.
I
It's a
don't think
safe
so.
place.
I genuinely don't think I've ever seen you like melt down over it. I think I did expect it to be concluded sooner, but that's my optimistic self generally. But when the Di Marzio stuff came about, when the first stuff came out, I was just like, I'm
That was
drained with it.
confusing, wasn't it? It was confusing because it kind
Nonsense.
of just went against everything else. And he's a very um, he's getting to the stage where he's not highly respected anymore. But he's got enough credit in the bank for people to go, okay, he's got enough right before that. Like, oh wow, like where's this come from? And I think even Man City fans at the time were like, oh, Rice is coming, nice, cool, sounds good. Like it just kind of it caught everyone by surprise, didn't it?
Absolutely. And I think it's important to understand, no matter how reliable someone is, where it's coming from, because every
Mm,
piece of news has got to have a purpose.
yeah.
So, why is someone tweeting that? They're not tweeting that for some good banter. Someone might get the odd exclusive, which, they get a scoop from someone else. But generally speaking, stuff is coming from West Ham, particularly the embarrassing or the over the top language,
Mm.
and stuff is coming from Arsenal when they feel confident or a bid's getting readied, and then West Ham are imminent. So it's very good to know where it's coming from. And when I saw that Di Marzio first thing, I was just drained. I think I just turned off
That's
notifications
when
on
your
all of
meltdown was, I
Twitter.
think, in the group chat. That's
I,
when
I
you.
just said, I think I just said like I'm just bored, like I'm just drained,
Yeah,
like I'm
yeah,
just.
yeah.
I wasn't never like pessimistic about it happening. Despite obviously, once again, when you're around a lot of pessimism, it gets a bit difficult on the timeline. But I
You
was
always
never
thought it
really
was going to happen. You always thought it was going to happen.
yeah, from everything I've seen and heard, media wise and everything, it's felt like a formality. And from what I knew, the second that Di Marzio tweet came out, the only way there's two ways that could be the truth. One is if Arsenal walked away, which
Hmm.
seems more or less the only way which we wouldn't have got Declan Rice. And two is if the player had a sudden change of heart and the talk of him wanting to join Arsenal was obviously very true, but he suddenly wanted to join City, which I thought was highly unlikely. So just seeing everything felt a bit boring, a bit draining, and getting constant updates. But you had a holiday in between that, which was a nice one to keep your cool or not really have to worry
Mate,
about
I
news.
was I was I was having meltdowns. Just I logged out of Twitter, so I wasn't broadcasting it onto my timeline. I was sat by the pool and I was listening to. Do you know I was spending my holiday? Okay, I might get criticism for this, but I was um I was lying by the pool in the Canary Islands, and I was sitting there. My other half was reading a book and sipping on cocktails, like you do in the sunshine. And I had my headphones on. I was listening to the radio, and I like listening to Talk Sport. I know and it gets a lot of bad press, but the Simon Jordan and Jim White show I actually quite enjoy. Take it all with a pinch of salt though, because it can be a bit interesting sometimes. But I enjoy it. It's good content. I enjoy it. It's a mix of banter and um, information at the same time. But I was lying by the pool and I nearly spat my cocktail out when all of a sudden I thought Declan Rice was coming to Arsenal confirmed nearly, and then all of a sudden you get the headline saying news at 11 o'clock. Manchester City have communicated their intent to bid and match any bid for Arsenal for Declan Rice, and it just kind of threw me off whilst I was on holiday. And I wish I'd just completely left it all and I didn't even have to, you know, worry about transfer news or stuff like that. But it all, all comes good in the end, hopefully. Um, but yes, mate, I wanted before we move on to the next topic, just let everyone know that you can follow us on Twitter at AFC Newsday, the destination for all the latest Arsenal news. Um, you know, Mine and Matt's opinions on things. We're trying to grow the brand a little bit. We'll be doing regular videos on here. Hopefully, we'll be out on Spotify soon too. Um, but make sure you're subscribed to our channel below AFC Newsday, and we'll hopefully be having much more content coming soon too. We're hopefully going to do an in-person podcast closer to the Emirates Cup, which will be good.
That'll be
Um,
good fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
can't wait.
and we'll have some special guests. All your favorite people on the timeline. They'll be there in the studio for us to question. So make sure
I'll
you,
hold back from the jokes, or maybe I'll spare all the jokes for then.
mate. If you do the jokes in person in the studio, it's on site. I'm right next to you, mate. You're gonna get it. Um,
Yeah, you
but
can't
yes,
can't do too much now. But on to the next topic.
yes. The next topic, which is this gentleman right here, following Balogun, who is, seems like he's got quite a bit of presence on social media recently. He's been what I don't know how true it was, but he's retweeted. It's been his birthday, and he's retweeted the America birthday wish, and then Arsenal have done a nice big post for him. He's just ignored it. So I don't know if that's changed since the time of recording, but yes, incredibly talented player. Had a great season last campaign out in France. One of the top goal scorers, below Alex Lacazette, ironically, in the French league.
Give up.
But yes, Matt, what are you doing with him next season following Balogun? Do you think he has a role to play within the Arsenal squad, or do you think he's just going to end up moving on and be a player that Arsenal look to get some money for?
I think it's a win-win for both that he moves on. I think it's very easy for me to say, "I'll give him a try in pre-season, see how he is, and go from there, and potentially keep him." But at the end of the day, the project is completely speed tracked. The level the team's at, the level the signings are at, the level the depth is at is incredibly high. And it's not to say Balogun isn't, because he is. He's a really, really good player. But of course, you do have the element that it could just be that one season. But I don't want to go with that narrative per se. But I think for logically, it's not like a FIFA thing where you can be like, oh, here's this young player. He's great. We'll keep him. Here's this young player. He's great. We'll keep him. There has to be assurances. And particularly for someone like Balogun, I don't really get the uproar from some people, to be honest. It's very easy for Arsenal to, be like, or Arsenal fans, sorry, to be like, oh, why are you leaving? You're ducking the competition, whatever, that type of thing. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter the level Arsenal are at. The player has his career and his interests at heart, and it can't be downplayed or badmouthed if he wants to go somewhere else where he gets complete assurances that he gets game time. Because what's to say he signs a contract, which seems very improbable at this point from what seems. But what's to say he stays on? And even with Champions League and all the competitions, you've still got Eddie Nketiah, who it's probably likely one of Eddie Nketiah or Balogun was to go, particularly with Havertz, who of course is D8, presumably, or that's what we think. But we know he's played as a nine for
Yep.
Chelsea and for Leverkusen, so that's always going to be an option, whether it's a common one or not. You've got Jesus, you've got Trossard, you've got Nketiah if he stays, and other youth players, and I'm sure the club will probably target that big number 9, which we've almost been linked with every summer since Arteta's come in. So I don't want to, I don't want it to be a selfish
Well, you think
perspective for
Arsenal will bring
Arsenal.
another striker in? You think Arsenal will
Not
bring
this
another
summer, no.
striker in? Not
But I
this summer.
think long term, not long, like short to long term, that will be the next on the priority list. Um,
Okay.
but I think the bottom line is you can't keep a player who not per se doesn't want to be there. I'm sure if he hadn't his wishes, he'd be starting for Arsenal every week and thriving. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, things aren't as simple as that. It's not that he's not off the level, but we just can't give him assurances with the way the project's moved on. It's same for Patino. It's same for other young talents in that aspect. And it's completely okay for these players to move on. And I don't think there needs to be a whole like big drama thing about it. I don't know if what you feel about Florian Balogun or Florian Balogun.
My opinion on following Balogun, I think, mate, I'd like to see him given a chance. I know he's probably not going to want to, but I don't know. I just think it wouldn't surprise me if Eddie just goes somewhere. Like if Eddie just, you know, if an offer came, like an Alex Iwobi style exit, like it just happened out of the blue. Um, and I'd love to see Balogun given a chance. Again, at the same time, I don't think it will happen. I think Eddie stays. Um, but man, I just think he's got so much talent. But I'm on the fence, Matt. I'm on the fence, mate. Okay, I think he's got so much talent, but then you've got to recoup the money when his stock's at its highest, and right now he's potentially could be at its highest if compared to if he spends a season sitting on the bench and scores a goal in the League Cup or a couple of goals in the FA Cup early rounds, then his stock will go plummet right back down again. So his stock is at its highest right now. If Arsenal got an offer of say 40-50 million, would I sell him? Probably would, but at the same time, I'm invested in some of these players within the young, the academy within Helen that have graduated, been through our systems, and I think he's one of the players I'd like to see given a chance, but I don't think it will happen because you know he's just sounds like he wants to go and play and be the main man and start somewhere. So, I mean, we'll wait and see. I don't know. Do you think Arsenal sell him to a Premier League club, mate, or do you think he goes abroad again, back to France, maybe?
I think it's a difficult one. I've always had this is just purely instincts. This isn't any kind of any source or anything like that. I just have always had the feeling that PSG are going to go in for him with
Ooh,
Campos, and they're going under those type of signings. I feel like they were linked with Gabri Vega. They signed
mm,
Ugarte from Sporting. They've signed Marco Asensio, a few others as well.
yeah,
I just feel like they might go in for him. It was reported earlier. I can't remember who by, but I think they're pretty reliable that a few Premier League clubs, including Crystal Palace and Brighton, were
yeah.
in for
Saw that.
him and are in for him. And I think an important part about whether we give Balogun a chance or not comes down to the contract. Really, he's got 2 years
Yeah,
left. I'm fairly sure. So you either convince the player to stay, which realistically the only way he's getting convinced to stay is if he gets assurances, because it's not going to be a thing of resale value because he goes this summer or he stays and then goes in a year, depending on what happens. But I just don't really I just don't see a way that he doesn't depart this summer, really, when I was thinking about it. I like the idea, as you say, of giving him a chance in preseason, but I also don't think it's as clear cut as just, yeah, give him a chance, see if he's any good, because it's got to be the players, like what the player wants and what the club wants. And at the end of the day, we can't keep all these players. We've got to have the players' best needs at heart. And a huge part of being a self-sustainable club is knowing when to let go, which is often a hard concept, for football fans with sentimental values and such. But I think that's all it really comes down to, and I think that will have to be the decision that he does go, and hopefully with a buyback. That would be, I think, best case scenario. Arsenal sell for quite a lot of money and a buyback, but potentially that's dreaming. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see, really. But I do really think that when you've got Eddie, you've got Havertz, you've got Trossard, you've got Jesus, and I really do think next summer will be the one where Arsenal actually make a proper move for that big number nine, which everyone's talking about. It's I wonder who that was linked to. Um, it's it's hard really to see a future for him with that.
yeah.
Two of those, two. I see you there. I like it.
um, well, a bit of context. Following Balogun's got 2 years left on his current deal. I'm not sure if there's an option um, for Arsenal to extend another year. So you're looking really at if if they want to get him, now's the time to sell him before you know if they kept him for another year, they'd ideally then want him to sign a new contract because you'd be losing him for a cut price with a year left on his deal, and then potentially losing him on a free um, the summer after. But yeah, 2 years left on his contract. I think Arsenal will sell him. I think Arsenal will sell him. But yeah,
Onto more of a not recent per se because everything's incredibly recent, but I thought it's a huge one to talk about on this first episode. Alessia Russo, we're
yes, mate.
talking about both sides, men, women, any huge updates. It will always be great to be involved with that or the academy and just cover all aspects of the club on this podcast. So I think
100%.
Alessia Russo is a huge deal. Man United, well, for anyone who doesn't know or doesn't follow women's football, Arsenal today, or officially today, signed Alessia Russo from Man United, or on a free, really, not really from Man United, but she was at Man United and they rejected a club record, I think 500,000 to join Arsenal in the January window, which is a huge thing, to reject a world record fee from
100%.
your rivals. Obviously it's not quite as rival like in the Women's Super League as it is in the Premier League, but it's still much of the same. The club's wavelength are very much evident from all across their areas. City are thriving in women's football, City are thriving in the men's team. Same with Arsenal, and I was going to name Chelsea, but they've of course, yeah, a bit of an
Oh,
anomaly there. But
shots fired from Matt.
no, I'm not trying
Chelsea
to.
fans, unsubscribe immediately. There's no place for you here. Matt doesn't like you.
I mean, maybe no. Um, but yeah, I think it's a massive, massive deal. It's a massive deal cultural wise, and it's almost like a reverse Van Persie, but in women's football terms in 2023. Like that is a huge, huge deal. And at
Mm,
the end of the day, women's football, academy football, it's almost a way of showing your ambitions and your qualities and wanting every trophy almost to have, that logo on it or that name on it. And I think that's a huge sign of intent, a huge sign of the belief and the quality of Arsenal at the moment in all levels. And I wonder, do you think anything? Well, I'd say, do you think anything will happen on a men's level basis? But I guess Kai Havertz not really the same ilk. But if you said to someone that Kai Havertz would be joining Arsenal when he first joined Chelsea, you'd be called a madman. So that's how quickly
Yeah,
things change.
I mean, on that, the women's game, there's something special happening at Arsenal with the women's football, isn't there? I mean, what they sold out or nearly sold out the Emirates. They did sell it out for the Wolfsburg game, didn't they?
Fully,
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. Yeah,
sold out Emirates Stadium, 59,000, 60,000, whatever it is, for a women's game is huge in this current day in market. And you've just got to applaud the football club for it. Arsenal have been brilliant with promoting the women's games, putting the games on at the ground, and it's absolutely skyrocketed last season. And it's brilliant to see from a fan's perspective and from the media's perspective of being able to you know just appreciate the support and love that is shown for the women's game. And the signing is a brilliant move. And I think Arsenal, when I don't follow, I'll be completely open here. I don't fully follow the women's matches every week. I keep an eye on what the scores are, but I don't watch every game. But I think Arsenal have got some fairly big injuries at the moment. It's fair to say, Matt, the women's side, the likes of well,
how
you
well
the
they
like. Are
did
you
last
disagreeing with me,
season.
or are you disagreeing with me, or are you
No, no,
agreeing?
no.
You're shaking your
I
head.
can't disagree with that. It's
Well, yeah, of
injuries
course, you've got Beth
click up.
Mead,
Yeah,
Vivian Miedemar. Who else am I thinking of? Jump in, Matt. Who else are there? Mead and Miedemar.
Williamson,
William,
Leah
yeah, Leah
Williamson,
Williamson.
and
And they've
one
all had
other
ACL.
McCabe. Was it McCabe?
Yeah, Katie
I think it
McCabe.
was McCabe. Yeah, we would four huge players. I get
And they've all had
ACLs are
ACL
more.
injuries.
I get
They've
them
all
more
had.
common in the women's game, but
Mm,
you're talking someone who could have won the Ballon d'Or and should have won the Ballon d'Or, in my opinion.
yeah.
Um, you're talking one of the best forwards in the world
Hmm.
alongside Beth Mead, and then you're talking a captain and one of the best players in women's football in Leah Williamson. So to still not only beat Bayern Munich over two legs,
Hmm.
but to go play Wolfsburg, take them all the way to extra time, and unfortunately, the way it happened is
Mate,
very
the game was
frustrating. But
incredible. You were
it's
there, weren't you? Did you go? I swear you did.
yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
was watching.
such
I
a
was
brilliant
watching that game
advert.
on TV because they've
I
got
was
a.
spot actually. I got someone tell me I was spotted. I went back and found it a few
I
weeks ago.
didn't
I was
see you,
like,
mate. Hate to disappoint you. Didn't see you. Um, but yeah, no, the women's game's huge, and they've got that partnership over on DAZN with, I think the Champions League games get broadcast on there, and yeah, it's great for them, and I'm delighted to see the progress it makes, and I hope next season they go one step further, and Miedemar, Mead, um, Williamson, and McCabe can all come back stronger, and mate, that's a super team if they all get back together. They're all playing in the same side. It's incredibly exciting. But Matthew,
unbelievable.
I think that kind of draws to a close our opening episode. Is there anything else you would like to say to the people before we sign off for the first time?
I think it's just great that doing this with Dan. Very excited for the future of these podcasts. Of course, the
Ah,
in-person one will be brilliant. No, it'll of course be brilliant. I'm very much looking forward to that, and I'm really excited to be doing an Arsenal podcast and covering the club which we follow and support and everything week in week out, day in day out, and it's a very exciting one. And there couldn't really be a better time to support Arsenal or be doing a podcast for Arsenal with everything positive we've discussed, the way the club's run, and just everything really, particularly with how the past had been the last few years, not quite so amazing, bit doom and gloom, but it's brilliant the way the things are moving. It's brilliant the ambition shown, and the club and across all areas, as we've discussed with Russo and women's football side, couldn't be in a better place, and I couldn't be happier for that. And yeah, very much look forward to doing more episodes.
Matt, but the thing is, the club will be in a better place when Declan Rice is seen holding an Arsenal shirt on the timeline, and when you see Arsenal tweet that, you can also see our reaction to it on our Twitter feed on this YouTube channel right here. So make sure to follow our Twitter feed. I'm going to um, just about there. I'm going to put a picture of where you can follow it. We're on 199 followers at the moment, so someone's get us over the line to 200.
Be that
But yeah,
iconic person when we're world famous. I'm
right, Matt, steady on now, lad, steady on. But yes, make sure to follow us on our Twitter, which is up there. You can follow Matt. There'll be a link in the description. You can follow me if you feel you want to. And make sure to please subscribe to the YouTube channel below. And we will be back very soon with another episode. We'll be doing regular episodes. Matt, anything else?
It's about it, really. It's been a great first episode, and I hope everyone enjoys listening to it.
Nice one. Appreciate you, Matt. Take care, everyone, and we will see you very soon.